What's going on, my friends? Welcome to the Snodcast. So this is the very first episode. My guest for this episode is Guy Fraser, friend of mine, friend of my father's. If you've ever been down to Jinji's Chocolate in Belvedere Square, you've seen him. It's Jinji's father. Very cool guy. He's definitely had a very full life, and he's been all over, but now he's retired, and he's just working at the chocolate shop. So definitely was excited to have him come in and tell some stories. So without further ado, let's get into the first episode. So Guy, welcome. This is great. You're my first guest. Thanks for coming over.
I could hardly wait.
How was the drive over? Did you find the place okay?
Nope. I have this, as much as I know Harford County, Wheel Road really just messes with me. I don't know why. I always think it's closer to Bel Air.
Yeah,
But anyway.
I guess it's like Bel Air South.
Yeah.
Is where we are right now.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. So again, thanks for coming on. When I thought about different people that I wanted to interview in the beginning, just sort of as like a trial run, I thought, Guy is such an interesting guy. He seems like he's had a rich life. He's been all over, and now he's working at a chocolate shop. So who doesn't like hearing about chocolate, right?
Chocolate is amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
So I definitely want to get into that. We can talk about that a little later. I think first what I'd like to hear is just some things about your origin, your history, your education. Like,
Wow.
I understand that you are now retired, but you were working as a civilian for the Army?
Army civilian, yeah,
Okay.
for 34 years. Actually, my career ended with the Army as a civilian for 34 years, but I'd say 32 of my 34 years were with the Army. So
That's incredible.
I had a couple of years with the FAA.
Okay.
And that was amazing. I mean, that was a launch pad.
Yeah.
And that kind of was a landing place from working in the world as a teacher and understanding what limitations were, where I was feeling about the profession, and what opportunities I didn't know what opportunities would open up for me and as becoming a government employee were, but man, it's worked without a plan. I guess there is a plan. I keep saying there was no plan, but the plan underlying has always been what my parents and their parents left me with, which was that drive to improve. There's nothing that stops you except you from wanting to improve and just figuring out what the available pathways are for improvement. So that's been, it's continued through me to Jinji, into the chocolate shop in a very subtle way, but it's like, okay, there's a wall here. It's open over there. There's somebody that can help pull me in over there. So it's always been this looseness, but also attention to the structure of improvement, and that's been a drive, a very significant piece of who I am.
That's wonderful. That's fantastic. So take me back to the beginning. Like, what is your education? What did you go to school for?
Oh, I went to LIU in Brooklyn, undergrad. That was my, I guess you'd say that the end of my formal education, but really the beginning of the real education, because things didn't really start to click for me till after college. And then while I was working for the Army, some opportunities came up to take more courses that were work related, and I was really into education and coming up with this perfected way of looking at children's education and interaction with adults and what have you. And I was very fortunate to have been in a leadership role most of the time all of the time I was with the Army, because my skills were brought in specifically because I knew about children and the structure of education. So the trying to think what brought that all on. I guess in LIU, I didn't know really what I wanted, and it was suggested that just take education. You'll be well rounded. You can go in any direction, and that's what really gave me a little comfort level. I could kind of continue with a liberal arts education. The political climate at that time, this is 66 to 70,
Wow.
was such that school was at first a protection from being involved in the military as a draftee. And then when the lottery system came in, I was exceptionally lucky. And then I didn't even need to be in school to not have been involved with selective service. So I never even took a physical, but the war was raging, so it was, again, there was this almost perfect dance of time and my preference for what I wanted for myself based on my experiences. So school led into eligibility. Because I finished school, I was eligible to take civil service tests that would get me into the government on a certain level.
Oh, okay.
So that's basically how I got in. I did not really have I had a very negative experience with my educational training and moving into the job market immediately after. Unlike a lot of my colleagues, they finished school, took the test, went to school. I see names now of administrators and the chief of the New York City Fire Department. People that I went to school with. I mean,
wow.
These people ascended through the ranks in ways that were a little different than what was waiting for me when I got out. I could not get a job. Each time I took the what was called a Common Branches teaching test, I would pass the 3 written parts and fail the interview.
Oh, no.
So, and long story short, males were a no-no in early childhood at that time, and black males was a triple no-no. You are not, you can go in middle school, you can go in high school, you can go, but you're not getting into early childhood. And I still wanted I wanted early childhood or college. So I got into early childhood in the New York City daycare system, but there was really no money. I mean, I got into a leadership role and got really kind of honed what it means to do for people as you would have done to you, and really get this exchange, what it feels like to be a leader and have the respect that you would perceive coming to you as a follower, if that kind of works out. So when I got to the Army, I think I might be skipping something. Okay. Yeah. The New York City daycare system basically crashed and burned, ran out of money, closing programs. So I started taking these federal exams and city exams. Any time a civil service exam would come up, I would take it. So I took the air traffic control exam.
Okay.
My mom said, "Oh yeah, why don't you become an air traffic control?" We had a second husband of a relative that was a air safety inspector. He would go to sites of crashes after.
Oh, wow.
And he was really seen as this Superman. I mean, he was an engineer. He was just really rounded, and he was really looked up to. And my mom said, "Wow, you should try something like that." So I said, "Okay." So I took the air traffic, and I had to take it 3 times because in order to actually become eligible to, to get selected, you had to have close to 100 on the exam. And when I got the first time, I got a 92. Oh man, I was ready. I was looking at the mailbox. When am I? Never happened. So I took the test third time, I got almost 100. And they took me and got into the job, hated it. It lasted about 6 months because I went to the academy in Oklahoma City. And what saved me was it was this dichotomy. I passed through the aircraft types and characteristics, the weather, the this, the that, but when it came to the actual practice of landing aircraft and having this mental map of where they were in space and how you had to integrate their coming into this imaginary landing pad, I could do it, but not fast enough because I had to think through it, and they didn't want thinking; they wanted reaction. And my delivery is normally slow. I don't speak at 100 miles an hour. These guys, I couldn't. How could you speak that fast and know what you're talking about? But they didn't want you to know it. It was so. What I did as I was leaving, because I was basically washed out, I gave a critique of their training program. They had an 80% washout rate.
Oh my goodness.
And most of the people, exclusively, the people who passed the course exclusively had been military controllers. So they would just basically repeating what they already knew as controllers. And it wasn't, in terms of that experience with the mental images of these planes flying around, and you're moving their cards around where they are and where they're moving, and talking at the same time, having this interaction with pilots. And it was fun, but it wasn't me. So a little forward, I wrote a critique of the course based on the fact that they were training rather than teaching, and I kind of told them what it would take to increase their rate of success for the students, and they listened. And so instead of throwing me back out into the world, they kind of said, okay, well, you go back to the Eastern region. We'll find something else for you to do. So they kept me instead of terminating me. And at that time, I just kind of started taking tests, not even because I was already a federal employee. So mm-hmm. I started looking at other jobs, and I found one in upstate. Well, it wasn't really upstate New York. It was a category of job that was called a developmental position. You went in as a kind of a paraprofessional, to describe it in non-government terms, and they developed you over a 5-year period into a full, so-called, fully functional or whatever. I'm not sad that I forgot the terminology, because it's so far behind me. But anyway, I got into that program, and within a year, I went in as an electronics technician trainee. And I thought, yeah, that'd be cool, because I love music. I always wanted to be around mics and recorders and things. That was and automobiles were my passion as a kid. Because my dad was both. He was a teacher, but he was always in wires and under hoods and stuff. So I took this job as an electronics technician trainee, and at the same time, one of the other jobs that I applied for gave me a call. This was a lieutenant from Germany saying, "Are you interested in coming to be a child support services coordinator to Grafenwehr?" It's 4:00 one morning.
Oh my goodness.
And I'm in upstate New York. Snow is coming in horizontally. I mean, it was amazing up there. This is in the Utica area, near to I worked at Oneida County Airport in upstate New York. So, and this is another little piece of the story that'll come together, this business of going to where the work is. Mm-hmm. And that's always been in my part of this drive to improve and going to that door that's open. And when you go to a door that's open, it's not going to come to where you are. You got to go to where the door is, and you got to live your life in a way that when that door is swinging, you can roll. That means deciding whether you're going to have a family, or if you have a family, are they going to be down with rolling with you when you get ready, that kind of thing. So I got that call. I've been doing algebra and trig every day, all day for 6 months. This is part of the preparation to become a electronics technician. So these are guys that service the lights and all the stuff on the runways for the flights to come in and out.
Okay.
So it was real. I mean, I had never been that close to a job that you could really kill yourself, because if you made a mistake and didn't understand what was hot and what was not, and what had to happen in order for things to, because I didn't know that. I had no idea about that level of danger, so I was learning as I was going along. So this call came in for this job in Germany, and I said, what? Really? And I was living with my girlfriend at the time, and they asked me who was coming. So I said, well, Margaret and me. And they said, well, who's Margaret? And they said, no. Either you and Mrs. Fraser are coming, or she can join you at a later time. So she had wanted to get married for years. We had been together for about 12 years. So I said, okay. So we got married.
Oh, wow.
That was it. Boom, boom, boom. I'm in Grafenwehr, Germany. I didn't know a sergeant from a general. I had only World War II pictures and books, Battle Cry and all that stuff that I read as a kid. I was kind of fascinated with that stuff for a minute. But the idea of being an adjunct to what was happening in the Army politically I could live with that, because I thought that, well, I can add something to the lives of these kids just because of what I know. And the structure was there, meaning that there was no structure. They needed people that would come in and straighten this program out. There were thousands of families and children in Germany after the Korean and Vietnam War. Yeah, because Germany was kind of a buffer zone during the Cold War between the so-called communist bloc and the rest of the world. Germany borders on East Germany and that connection with the Soviets and all that. So anyway, I had a very easy decision, because I wanted to travel. My wife was willing to go. We really took off bright-eyed, and turned out I think I had 3 jobs, different cities, different places, each one a definite lock, stock, and barrel pickup move, PCS, permanent change station. 3 of those while in Germany. So this is my 4th. So this is my 5th job already.
Oh, wow.
In the government, and I started in 1978.
Wow.
And this is 1980, and I'm on my 5th job already, and each one is better than the one before.
Wow.
And this was kind of a pattern that began way before the government, because as I went from job to job, each one had a little bit something that was much cooler than what I was leaving. Even though it tore my heart to leave a couple of things, I really wanted to keep it moving. And so Germany lasted until about 85. Yeah, 85. And then we came back, had a choice of going to a place called Fort A.P. Hill in Virginia that I never heard of, Aberdeen Proving Ground, or Fort Devens in Massachusetts. And New York is home. So, man, how am I going to get back home? I got to get closer because my dad had passed. My dad passed in '85, and I wanted to get as close to my mom as possible. She, at the same time, wanted to come with the plan they had after his retirement for them to move to Columbia, Maryland, because they, for the strangest reason, they had no hanging wires. They had no telephone poles and electrical wires hanging in the streets. Everything was underground, and they thought that that was, for coming from Brooklyn and Queens, this was utopia. They really wanted to see this. So it really was kind of easy because she wanted to come down here. Okay, I'll just take Aberdeen Proving Ground. Took Aberdeen. I was in Aberdeen for 2 years, and then I got a job at Aberdeen in a headquarters that was responsible for the children's and social services programs at White Sands, Dugway, Yuma, and Aberdeen itself. So I would be I traveled 78% of the time.
Oh, wow.
I was out there, spending, just trying to help. I was, that expression from the IG, we're only here to help. It was always, an inspection or a staff assistance visit, something to kind of pull their programs into what was a norm. By that time, a regulation had been written, and which I was really part of the core of people that helped to structure what that would become. And it's a pretty comprehensive, it's a compendium of best practice in early childhood education. There was a woman named M.A. Lucas that really kind of had the vision to put this whole thing together, and I was one of the people that was there at the beginning. So that kind of ended with restructuring in the Army, as always happens. You kind of have to be ready for that. Okay, you don't know when it's gonna happen. So my next thing was, okay, this is no longer happening. I'm gonna have to let the personnel office help me find something else. Their help was to offer me a job that would make me want to retire, because by this time I had about 25 years. I had technically enough time to retire, but I didn't have the age, and I kind of started understanding mechanics. If I had gone when they wanted me to go, I would have lost a lot. So I said, okay, you're going to have to find something for me. I'm not ready to go. So they called themselves making me uncomfortable. So they assigned me to Belvoir for a while. I did it for a year, and oh man, he's not leaving. They sent me up to Fort Hamilton. Oh man, I was in love up there, in Brooklyn. So I never had a real job, as a government employee right there in the city. So
Wow.
That was nice. I had that that was about 7 to 8 months. And then they kept saying, you're going to have to just accept one of these jobs. But they never really made it really right for what I wanted to do while I was there. And then they said, okay, we're transferring you to Fort in Hampton, Virginia. Monroe. It's not even there anymore. Excuse me.
Yeah, I've never heard
Send me
of it.
to Fort Monroe, yeah. Fort Monroe is right on the water, picturesque, Civil War battles fought there. It has some history. So that was a year. I lived in Newport News, really nice apartment. So I actually lived there. I moved, PCS again. As soon as I got there, man, I got to find another job, because it was 5 hours to get home, because I never sold the house in Joppa, where I live now. So I said, man, I got to get closer. So finally something came through, and I got a job in the BRAC office at the Pentagon, the Base Realignment and Closure. So I said, okay, I'll take it. Picked lock, stock, and barrel. Not real lock, stock, because half my stuff was here at home. Took the job at the Pentagon, lived in Arlington. I understood the madness of trying to commute to DC. So I said, I'll do anything not to commute to DC. So my apartment in Arlington was higher than my mortgage, but I was 6 minutes from work. It
Oh
was
my God.
beautiful. So I did that for 5. I thought I was only going to do it for 3 years, but I did it for 5. And at the end of that 5, I was in this situation. Brackets was over. I think it was BRAC 12. BRAC was year 7 to 12. And so when the program ends, they expect people to go and find their other jobs or da-da-da. And I was not, I was kind of stagnant. So they said, okay, you need to retire. I said, no, I'm not ready. So they gave me a couple of, put paper clips together jobs. And I took it and I just waited. I looked at the time that I wanted to have before I retired, planned it that way. And when the day came, I was gone. So
What year was that?
And that's January of 12.
Okay.
And that January 30th of 12. And beautiful. Never looked back. And within 3 weeks, Jinji and I had a really close relationship with someone in Germany, which really kind of extended from when we lived there in 85, in 79 to 85. All of that came back around in a way that I was over there. And the possibility to have this other career, we didn't even look at it as a career. Jinji had this idea about chocolate being a vehicle for people to continue to enjoy something delicious, but at the same time keep an eye on their weight and their sugar consumption.
Oh wow!
So
sounds perfect.
So yeah, it still is. I think they keep coming back, and we're not putting anything strange in it. It's just except that people. I think people can taste that whole drive to improve, because it's still very much part of what we are now doing.
That is too cool.
Yeah, man. So that's kind of a nutshell. I mean,
Oh, that's great. I love it. Yeah, we can definitely get into the chocolate now. So it was Jinji's idea, but she came to you and said, "Will you help me out with this?" Like, what was your initial role in the company?
Well, we were. I was visiting my friends in Germany, and at the same time, the International Chocolate Show was happening in Paris.
Wow.
So she called and said, this is happening. And I didn't realize that she was coming, this was a trajectory for her. I thought it was just an experience. Yeah, let's come. She came, we went, we had a good time. Met a lot of people, understood the differences between who could supply what, and she had been starting to do a little studying. And of course, my experience with the military in BRAC was about project management. So I was coming straight out of this pretty structured way of spending millions of dollars, looking at time and what has to be done and who has to do it. So I was able to add some very recent experience that I had to what we were about to embark on.
Oh, no kidding.
And it worked out pretty nicely so far. But you asked a question, when did so now this all happened within weeks after I retired, because I was overseas. I was really planning on living overseas for a while, because I really appreciated the level of respect for the arts and the availability of music and people that were very committed to seeing peace and a clean environment, and I was surrounded by these kind of people when I was in Germany. And I was like, wow, I really wanted to. And then speaking a little French, because I had French for 8 years.
Oh,
and
nice.
got to visit there several times driving, and I got to drive a lot. I really like driving. Well, I like to drive. I love to drive. And so driving in Germany and France and Italy, I got all over there. I drove thousands of miles probably.
And what was your favorite city in Germany? Which one made you feel the most just at home and comfortable like that?
Bremerhaven was really the coolest place because it was easy. It was real easy up there. I could put my car on a boat and be in Groningen, Holland. I drive there, drive up to Hamburg. It was really, I really like the North
Yeah, I
of
mean that's
Germany.
one thing I love about Europe too. Is like once you're in it, it's pretty easy to get around and go to all the different countries and cover a wide area in a short amount of time, and
Very
for
short,
pretty
yeah,
cheap
because
too. Yeah,
yeah, and you could drive quick
yeah, yeah.
sometimes.
Take the trains,
At
things like
that
that.
time,
Yeah.
there were a lot of roads without speed
Oh,
limits.
I bet you
And
enjoyed that.
it was exhilarating. I mean, I think I've learned to over the years to kind of handle that kind of thing based a lot on um, my just. I have a pretty good gyroscope in me about where I need to be, in terms of when I'm moving fast and what's going on around me. So it's cool.
Far out. Well, so let's bring it back to chocolate a little bit here. You want to talk to me about like the process that you and Jinji kind of came up with that makes your tell the listeners like what's so special about your
The
chocolate.
the chocolate.
Like
Yeah.
as far as the ingredients, where you source the
Um,
materials from. Let's talk about that.
yeah. Well, one of the I guess founding principles was that we were going to be very responsible about where the chocolate came from, who got to enjoy it, who got to help us make it. We're not gonna do any. We're not giving up any space on any of that. We really were going to stick to some pretty hard and fast rules. So we sourced the chocolate. We still do from Ecuador. We met the family that we are still sourcing it from when we were in Paris, all the way back then, and that is we've retained that relationship.
That's incredible.
Probably it might be about to change a little bit, but we might have time to get to that. But so acquiring the chocolate was a big piece, and then the process. At the time, Jinji was a raw foodist, and that helped to inform the process because she wanted to stick to those principles and not giving any possibilities for the taste or texture of the chocolate to be compromised by the process in which it's prepared. So when it's raw, it's heated at below 105 degrees.
Okay.
And you're not meddling with the potency of the product or its nutritional structure, or minimally meddling in both those areas. So
okay.
so all the chocolate has that. Beyond that, we never use any dairy and we never use any refined sugar. There are places that we use honey, and we kind of identify that when it happens because there's some vegans that are very sensitive about honey. We respect that. But that has been what separates us from the rest, and because it's all dark, it all of the hype about, we don't really have to give it any hype because it has its own reputation, in terms of being an antioxidant. And then with the bark that we first created, we had health consciousness was the key, because on the bark we used ingredients that targeted hair health, skin health,
Oh, no kidding.
longevity, or vitality, and each blend had a different focus. So, and we still do that, only we changed the names. We had one called Tress for the hair. This one would have been called Tress.
I was about to ask. So
of the
there's a piece of bark here that guys brought me. So what would this one? What's kind of infused into that one? There?
So that one is orange, raspberry, and Brazil nut,
Wow.
and that
Sounds so
combination is for hair health. So if you sit down and eat this steadily till tomorrow morning, you'll get up in the morning and your hair will be.
Oh, I'm definitely gonna eat that whole thing. That's for sure.
Yeah. No, this is 2 servings. But so this is one of 4 at 72%. We have 2 at 72, 2 at 76, and when you taste it and you look, and people come out, oh, I only eat chocolate that's 80% and above, and they taste this and they pause like, what is this? It's because of it being raw.
Okay.
That it doesn't, it really tastes. There's a different level of purity. So we started making this bark and providing it to people in by appointment only, for weddings, for this, for that. Word of mouth kind of got out, and then we got into the Waverly Market as part of another vendor stand. Neopol was has been out at Waverly Market maybe 20 years or more.
Oh my goodness!
And they kind of invited us to come and just have a piece of their table. We were out there for a year. And then we got to learn that chocolate is really an indoor activity because of sun, because of humidity.
Waverly's outside, yeah.
Okay. So we learned, and at about the same time, we were speaking to people at Belvedere Square, and we were invited to come in on a trial, and the trial quickly turned into, you're here. We really need you here, and now. It morphed into a 7-day operation for a retiree.
Oh my God.
So
you're saying you work there every day, in other words?
Well, no. I work there, not physically every day. I mean, I do payroll. I do a lot of things at home.
Okay.
But I'm physically at the shop probably now about 3 or 4 days a week.
Okay.
And not a lot of hours. Mm-hmm. So I really still respect my retirement status.
That's good.
And want to keep it that way just so I can be loose to do things, because there's still a lot of stuff, to do. I mean, musically, and I'm so, when we're sitting and just this process, being in the mic. And one of the things I did when I worked in Arlington was I worked at WPFW, which is a public radio station. It's part of Pacifica Network. And I had a jazz program there for about 5 years, and I loved it. Same thing I did at WEAA for about 5 or 6 years prior to that. And I still feel like I want to get back to that.
Cool.
So there's still a lot I want to say musically, but musically through others' music, not my music, but through others' music. I really, and as we were speaking before the interview started, you said, "Oh, do you listen to podcasts?" And I was telling you how much I really liked it, but when I see myself just driving and listening, I'm listening to music that I've loved in the past and just hearing other things. I'm listening to music in a different way and coming up with hearing it more mathematically and understanding just what endeared certain songs to me, and just how people like Charlie Parker are able to just raise the level, within a phrase that they just, and just the intricacy of how that happened. And being basically a non-musician, I mean, I could have been family-wise, my dad was a music teacher. I had access to every possible instrument. He was a vocalist also, but I didn't want to practice. I wanted to play. I wanted to hang.
Yeah.
So that's, to me, still work that is in progress.
You got time.
Yeah,
You got
man.
time. And you
Yeah, man.
you like photography too, right? Isn't that one of your
Oh
other hobbies?
yeah, that's another thing. That was one of his too. He had a dark room in the basement when growing up. I knew what an enlarger was and the three trays. The rub. All the magic happened dark downstairs. That was cool. I really. So yeah, photography. I love it, but it's one of those. It's another one of those things like the podcast. I have a list of podcasts that I want to listen to. I have, oh gosh, the number of photos that I've taken that I haven't sat down to edit yet or to categorize. I know about when they were taken by month, and I was there that month, and I look back. So yeah, I have a lot of work to do, and it's almost stunted my move forward because there's so much that I haven't done with with photos that I've already taken, and I love it. I really love it. I mean, the cameras. We
Oh yeah.
had that. So that's there. The passion is still there, but there's just so many hours. You kind of got to pick and choose.
I know, that's the hardest thing for me.
Isn't it?
Well, cool. Well, so let's start wrapping things up. I have, I guess, one more question about the chocolate shop. Tell me what it was like around Valentine's Day. What were the sales like? Were people just
this
going
one,
nuts? Or?
Yeah, it was nuts in a different way. It took both of us off guard because we kind of look at, now that we've been in this as long as we have, we got into Belvedere in 14. We were 2 years working from home. Got into Belvedere in 14. So we have basically 5 years of pretty hard data to show what we did on a certain day. It's not as specific as it could be, but with what data we have in our memory, we can kind of piece things together. But long story short, the first 5 Valentine's Days, the first 4, 14, 15, 16, 17, first 5 Valentine's Day, the day was a big bang. 14 was better than 13, each successive year, except I think when we got to 17, 16 was a little better. Wow.
Okay.
What could have caused that?
Yeah.
And then, then 18 came, 18 was better than 17. Okay, we're on a run. So here's 19 coming. We're kind of ready for the same type of thing. And a week before, we were getting these numbers like, oh shit, this is like it's next week already, because Valentine's Day fell on a Wednesday?
It was a Thursday this year.
Thursday. Okay, yeah, on a Thursday. So the Thursday before, which is really kind of the beginning of our weekend, it was showing these signs of really popping, and then the whole weekend was up, and then it just kind of moved up, and then when Valentine's got there, it was just okay. This is enough. It's kind of like we saturated our immediate retail audience in a way that there was no need for a rush on Valentine's Day, and it even trailed off into the following weekend. It didn't just end on Valentine's. So we had this kind of a plateau that we stayed on for about 7 days, and it was beautiful.
Wow,
it was beautiful, man.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So if people want to come into the chocolate shop or follow the chocolate shop online, how can people find the chocolate shop?
Oh, it's pretty easy now because of Jinji's name that she's grown into. Because Jinji is a tune of the great Antonio Carlos Jobim, the Brazilian guitarist. A piece of his songbook. He's the guy that's responsible for bossa nova.
Oh,
basically.
Wow.
So he left us with this name, and that whole connection of that part of the world and chocolate, and so Jinji. If you put Jinji chocolate into Google, you'll find us pretty easily, or into Instagram, Twitter, what have you. But another little piece was Jinji's education after swimming. I should almost say she and her brother were both competitive swimmers, but it came to her picking major in school when she found out she wasn't going to be a professional swimmer. that she would go into communications and culture and a little criminal justice. So that said, we got our web design and everything having to do with our internet presence. Jinji was able to do without any assistance. So that was a big leg up in our getting into business at lowest possible cost.
Oh,
And
fantastic.
that was that we didn't kind of go into those particulars, but this was a venture that we basically started with our personal commitment to getting the job done. It wasn't we're gonna borrow thousands of dollars and hire this one to do this and hire this one. It's grown on itself,
That's beautiful.
and we're gonna try to keep it that way. But it's getting a little harder because as we think about expanding, equipment is a lot more equipment is necessary, a lot more space is necessary. So those are the kind of things that you kind of have to say, okay, it might not pay immediately, but it has the foundation to be sufficient. In terms of the experience that we've had, seems like it might be sufficient to bring us into this new level of production. And,
Yeah. Well, I say you
so
go
it's
for it.
exciting. Yeah. She's ready. She's ready.
Cool.
I'm kind of sitting back. You think we should we wait? No. She's not waiting. She's on it.
That's so exciting.
It's cool.
Well, cool, guys. So thanks so much, guys. This has been great. Thank you
Really,
so much for being...
I'm happy. I'm happy to tell this story, man.
Yeah, no, I'll have you
just
on
hope it's
again for sure.
Okay,
You can be a
cool.
recurring guest if you want.
Oh man,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. And at the same time, you need to be on the other side of the mic because you, my friend, have a story to tell also. I mean, at the time that we've known each other, it's been what, 3 years?
3 or 4 years, I think.
Yeah. And during that time, you're not the same Graham. You've grown and some of the places you've gone, your relationship with your pop. I have in deep admiration of what you do.
Well, thank you so much.
man.
Yeah, we'll see if I can find some
man.
friends who have their own podcast. And I'll jump on there. All right,
Okay.
guy. Hey, thanks so much,
Cool.
man. I'll talk to you soon.
All right.